No, it's well. It's raining today, so then it's very well here down here in the Cape because we've got this drought going on, and uh, it's really bad to see how I have to save water. You're so used to just flushing the toilet. Now you have to put grey water in the toilet. You have to flush every third person and so forth. So we're busy with that. We're busy on the grounds as well. With the fires, then now we've got all these alien plants coming in.
Oh.
And I had a group here on Monday to help me with all the different alien, especially the Australian plants, like the pine, the blue gum, the a black wattle, and or Jackson, and so forth. So on Monday, I had guys to help me here, 18 people, and I think we must have pulled out just in the area where we played golf, that front area. We must have pulled at least 25,000 little trees out. It's just all over the place. We counted for 10 minutes, said, okay, let's try and see if we can pull out each one of us 100 little trees in 10 minutes. I managed 304, and on average, we had about 150 trees per person. Now, it's just small little trees, but in a few months, it's big.
They're all going to grow.
So there's a lot of work still to be done, and because we want to establish the indigenous plants like the proteas and so forth, and not have that many trees around, but just rather the proteas. So it's a lot of work to do that, and a lot of cleaning and so forth. But so it keeps me busy, and then also the water holes, and with all this drought, I can't get my pumps going, and where pumps used to run every 2 hours, run for about 10 minutes. Now they run every 6 hours for 10 minutes if I'm lucky. So it's just getting all things going, because we're only now going into our summer season. So it's supposed to be really hot outside. As you can see, I've got a jacket on, so it's actually cool today, which I appreciate because there's some rain outside. But you guys must get cold there, because I spoke to my friend yesterday morning in Aberdeen, Scotland, and then he says, no, it's -4, yeah.
Yeah, in some places it was -13 the other night. And they've had a lot of snow. There's been a lot of snow. We don't get it down our area very, very often, because we're sort of on the southwest on the Atlantic coast, so you tend to get sort of a coastal thing. But further up, they did have a lot. Yeah, schools were all closed for a few days. Wales particularly. So yeah, they had 20-30 centimeters. So yeah, but no, it's all good down here.
That's really rough. That's really rough. Because it always sounds so romantic, the snow, If we here in this side of the world where you don't normally see snow, you hear snow, you think, oh, it's so romantic, man, the snow. But it's just for that first time. It's for the ski holiday.
Yeah, once
so how's
not good.
Yeah. I can remember when we went over in 1993, 94, we went to Bath. I never got so cold in my life. I had to buy myself extra clothes there. It's so cold, because it was during December and January. But it was a amazing time. But to go into the outside so cold, the inside you go into these heated malls and so forth. That just got to me. It's I rather prefer the weather. Yeah, I must say, and go and ski, and it's like somebody else's baby. You give it back to them. Just enjoy the fun and the nice things. But how are you doing in the family?
I'm doing fine. Yeah, family wise, church family's great. Home family, my wife's mother died this week, so so that was a little bit. It was not a shock in one sense, but she's been a bit frail. But she had a stroke and then went to hospital last weekend, and then had a major stroke in hospital, and basically that was the end of it. And she hung on for a couple of days, but died Monday night. So my wife's sort of having to deal with that a little bit. She's okay. and all the and three of the children were there as well with her, so that helped.
Sure.
But yeah, this time of year is not the not the ideal thing to be happening sort of Christmas time, I guess, with but all the family are coming home, so they're all deciding to celebrate Granny's life rather than be morbid over it. So, but you have to deal with the emotions and no one can tell you what your emotions are. That's the thing. It's like she doesn't know how to behave. She's not lost a parent before, so she doesn't know how to feel. So she's a little bit like, well, should I be more upset? And I'm saying, well, you are what you are. Don't try and be anything other than what you are. Don't try and avoid it, but also don't try and make something happen that's not there. But it's okay. I mean, we'll get through it all right.
Sure. But how old was she?
Oh, she was in her 80s, so she wasn't young.
Okay, so she had a long life at least.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
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 Sure, man. No, but I'll be thinking of you guys because, like you said, one sort of wants to get in this holiday mode, and then suddenly this, that little white dog. It's not on the same level, but that little white dog that was around here, the three dogs. The little one died on Friday as well. I got home. She had blood over her face and the side. I washed it off. I couldn't get a wound. And she just started getting lame. And I took her down to the vet. And when we got there, she was dead already. So the only thing that I can think of was that a cobra snake actually bit her in the ear, because that's the only area we got some kind of swelling. And it's just within an hour died.
Yeah.
And so it's a tough life up here in the mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
And your kids?
Yeah, they're all good. Yeah. They'll all come around for next week. My son's coming home, and the eldest daughter, and she'll bring grandchild and stuff. So yeah, it will be a lot of people around and a lot of fun. I'm picking my mum up on Friday, bringing her out for the Christmas time as well. She sort of alternates between ours and my sister's, so I'm going to go and pick her up and bring her up for a few weeks.
Yeah. So do you normally have your family together on Christmas time?
Generally, yeah, they like to come home and we play games and just have fun and eat and hang out. Yeah. So they'll all be around at various times over Christmas. So yeah, we get a full house.
What are your children's names?
Hannah, Claire, Ben, and Rebecca.
Hannah, Claire, and Dan.
Ben.
Ben
or Benjamin, yeah. And Rebecca.
And the ages?
Oh, now you're asking. I think 33, 31, 29, and 23. Or 24, actually. No, 24, yeah. I tend to forget ages.
Are all of them married now?
No, two of them are married. The eldest two are married, and the other two aren't.
So Ben and Rebecca is not married?
No.
Not. And your wife's name again? I can't remember that.
Deborah, but we call it Deb, just D-E-B. She doesn't like Debbie. People call her Debbie at work all the time. And she's like, oh, why do they keep calling me that? I'm not called that. So yeah, Deb is what we tend to refer to her as. So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about children being married. My oldest, we're currently praying to see if she should go into a relationship with a boy. Because we trained them courtship and not dating. So they've got a lot of friends around, always friends and men as friends as well. But now this one relationship looks like he's interested in her and she must now decide. But it's now that whole thing of we were kidding the other day. So not actually, they actually asked me a question. Say, Dad, so what was your picture of a wife one day. Now, my actual story is that I went for a few drinks, myself and a few friends, and we wanted to meet up with another girl. But we knew the only way to get to that girl is to get hold of my wife. But at that stage, we didn't know her. So we went to her hostel, and we asked around, and we got hold of Hanneke, and then she could take us to the other girl. So when we got to the hostel and said, but we want to go to the other girl, she said, no, she doesn't want to go. So I grabbed her, ran out of the hostel, put her in the car, and we actually kidnapped her and took her to the other girl. But on the way, when I put her in the car and I went and sat in my seat, then I had this audible voice, but that was the only audible voice I ever had in my life. I said, this is your wife. I said, no ways.
Yeah.
So we did start a relationship, and eventually I married her. So, but I never quite had a list. Like I was saying to my girls, I always thought, you know what, I want to go for blonde and big boobs. And I hope this is not recorded. Blonde and boobs and beautiful legs. And at my age, I've got all of that. I've got my blonde hair, and I've got boobs, and I've still got my legs. So, sorry to disappoint you girls. I didn't have a list. I just married your mom because the Lord said so. So yeah. So I had to start thinking about it and share with them the things that I would think about and so forth, and not to sound too academical, but really to care for them. And it was quite amazing if one starts thinking about these things, because I know my daughters look up at me and they say, I want a big husband, one that can hug me and I feel secure with him. And now this guy is not that big. He's actually, I would say she's taller than what he is, but my wife actually went and measured them, and he's half a centimeter taller than what my daughter is. So it's not completely fitting into her box. So we're going through that process now. Yeah, but to see your daughter go, man, that's a tough one. That's a tough one for me. Yeah, Mike, I've got all these questions. I really appreciate this time together. You don't know how excited I am about this time. But the one thing that I thought that I would like to do today, if you don't mind, is just tell you about my life, where I come from, that you just can understand, because I really would appreciate you speaking in, because I don't have that. I don't really have somebody that can speak into my life, and I want this more as a friendship than like a counseling session, because I also learned how to listen, say, and ponder, and I journal constantly. So if I do look down, I'm constantly journaling here. But because there's an area that I struggle to break through, and that is the area that you're ministering in. And we spoke about that the last time, about the whole concept of seeing and developing the seeing and all of that. And in this time, I also trained on going back to base camp and working on the teachings regarding the speaking in tongues and the meditation. So I worked on that. And I would just like to reflect on that, if you don't mind. Is there something on your heart or what?
No, carry on. No, I'm here to serve, so whatever you'd like to do. So.
Okay, so well, first of all is I come from a Dutch Reformed background, so conservative, Calvinist background, Lutheran, whatever, and at the age of 32, 33, that's now after in church. I was involved in church, the Sunday school, all those kind of things. Went to university. My mom said you should go to church because the nice girls goes to church. You must at least marry a nice girl, and I did do that. And I went through all the ranks there, did the whole church religion thing. Now, if I look back, I can see the religion 91, where I did sort of made some kind of commitment, sort of giving my heart to the Lord, but not my life. In 1989, I went into depression. I went into a deeper process of really looking and searching for the Lord. I think I know why my internet is so low. I'm on the wrong. Just going to connect to another. That should work better. That should be better. Yep, absolutely. Oopsie, where are you now? Can you still hear me?
Yep.
I've sort of lost all.
Okay. I can still see you. So.
I'll keep on talking. Where are you now? See. There it is. It should be a better signal now. Yeah, it seems like it.
Okay. Yeah.
And my daughter just brought me some cake. Look at this.
Oh, very nice.
So somebody should stay off sugar. How do you like that?
Oh, very good.
Yeah, so in 1989, my life took a turn. At that stage, I was a Sunday school teacher in the final year process of Sunday school teachings when the children are affirmed and so forth. And I got challenged by questions that the children asked. But also at that stage, I was I moved into deeper sins and so forth, and I was actually in an adulterous affair as well. So through that, I really got to a process of asking about my relationship with the Lord and whether the Lord really loves me and whether He will forgive my sins. So actually, I got confronted with all those things that I always just assumed as a child, and then I had all these guilt feelings and all the shame and all that went with that, and that turned into depression at the end of the day. So I went on this process, and then I gave my life over, and immediately the Lord showed me in that process, got word about tend to my sheep. He showed me the morning star with the promise of if I overcome, then I will see the might and the power that Jesus received from Him, from Revelations 3, and to rule and the scepter and all of that. So that was immediately something imprinted on my mind, and that's what I started walking in. And so a year and a half after my rebirth, we started at Beulah. So there was no process of any teachings whatsoever. I came from a Dutch Reformed Sunday school teacher into this ministry, and I just knew that we had to establish a place where, like a tree, where with sheep under this tree, where people can come and rest, a place of rest and restoration. So my picture's always been a mountain with a tree, with a sheep under the tree. And so when I started asking the Lord about what we need to do, because I came from corporate training and human change processes, we were even taught in corporate, what's that, Yugi, that I think it's Yugi, that guy that taught the Beatles, that, those kind of processes.
Oh, yeah.
We were even taught those kind of processes there, and I walked out of those processes and said, no, I'm a Christian, I'm not doing this. But even those processes, I couldn't get a breakthrough. And then, so I come from that background, but so the Lord just gave the only word that we received when we, because I thought, must I go and study theology? And He just gave us word, Psalm 32, I will teach you. So we were taught through processes that people would just pitch up here, start a process, and we will get involved and so forth and learn from that. Eventually, we wrote a process by the name of Morning Star Focus Ministry, where we took people into the Father Heart of God, surrounding the teachings of Watchman Nee, all about the blood of Christ, the death of Christ, and then into the sonship. So that's sort of the strong area of anointing that flows regarding the Father Heart of God, and through that we also work with things like what you call the lie buster process, like yours. We've got a process that we developed that's more or less the same, determining the lie, breaking the lies through the revelation of the Father, and do the deliverance, everything surrounding that. And then we got sort of stuck because we found that okay, that there's something more. That there's some way people lose their passion and sort of move into addictions and enslavement and in substance abuse or relationships and so forth. And it's hard to break through, although they walk as Christians, but especially people in ministry. So we started looking into that area, and that's how we got to sort of what they now term the supernatural. And but in this, I'm struggling with myself. Since 2010, I'm struggling in the area of, it's almost as if the old sins came back, or the temptations of the old sins came back. So I'm fighting a lot against the pride of life and the lust of the flesh, lust of the eyes. Those are the things that's constantly nagging me, and so I must constantly watch myself for those areas. Now, I've learned that the areas where I move are the areas that I have to help other people in as well. So that's, for me, is the driving force of breaking through. But in this whole process, somewhere I've lost passion. I've lost the passion that I had in the beginning. I don't want to say that I want to react in the same way that I acted in the beginning, because a lot of how I acted in the beginning after my rebirth, a lot of it was actually judgment and self-righteousness as well, because now suddenly I'm this changed person, and so nobody's allowed to smoke here, to drink here, or whatever, to swear or whatever. And now I think that's part of the process of the Lord just showing me, you know what, if you do that, you're not lost. But I shouldn't focus just on that. I should focus on the bigger picture. So it's part of my journey. I know that. But I was saying to Hanneke last week, if people come here, I would rather like to withdraw. I would rather like to stay out of the main line. I will sit and work with the individual, but there's sort of a withdrawal in me, and it's partly it's because of fear of people, and then the other hand is also partly because it feels like I've lost some of the glory, the anointing of the Lord in it, and then also not being able to break through in the areas like what we spoke about last week. So that's where I am. I don't feel that I'm at a good place. And so I struggle to move in passion. I watched that movie, King Arthur, and if I can use that as an analogy, where he also had this life, and he built this life up from him, and he ruled in that area, and it was good for him, but he was anointed to be king, and how that I assume you've seen that movie.
Yeah, so yeah, it's on a plane somewhere, I think I actually saw it on the plane to South Africa, I think.
You did?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
It's fascinating, because the picture that the Lord gave me when I went to Scotland in 2009, I went to pray there. We had to pray in specific areas and so forth. When we finished off, then the intercessors gave me this huge sword. But when I went to Scotland, the picture I had was this rock with this sword stuck in this rock. And I thought it's something of Scotland. And now, after all these years, suddenly this is the picture in front of the movie. And so it made a lot of sense for me of the life that is chosen, and where we overcome in that life. But that wasn't his real life. That was just a preparation for his kingship. But then also he didn't take up his kingship immediately as, now I'm king and let's move in it. He had to get his heart into it. And for him to get his heart into it, he had to see he had to go into that. I was thinking so much about the things that you speak about, but he had to go to that, I think that island of darkness, they called it. And he had to go there, and he had to see the destruction and what has been stolen from him. And when he saw that and he came back and he went through that hurt, his heart was changed. Now I see myself, in lack of words, myself, I'd rather use that as an analogy, but that's where I see myself. It's sort of, somehow I'm on this road and I don't know where I am and I don't know where to connect, and I don't have the passion for this, and I don't know how to get back and walk in this, because if like in the last month I also fasted for 3 days, and normally that brings me back to focus. But I've gone through that whole process of fasting, and I walk out on the other side and I see, but nothing has changed in me or in the circumstances or the things that I've actually fasted about. So for me, I'm really at a sort of at a lost place. I don't know how to link up all the different dots and things and move in a direction. The only thing that I do have at this stage is your processes. It links a lot of things for me. It brings a lot of things together for me. But I still don't know the direction that I should move in. So I find myself in a really difficult place. And so my question would immediately be is, and I mean, it's not just me in that place. I find many people in that on a weekly basis, phone imposters, that I find that they're just hanging there, trying to survive this world, never mind having the bigger picture. Now, what was interesting was it not last, the night before, I sat and we as a family just sat together, everyone doing his own thing, and I sat with the laptop and I thought, let me just, on these thoughts that I just shared, let me just see this, just something that I can grab onto, just something. So I don't know how I got on it, but eventually I got on this side. It started off with this guy started talking about the manna in the wilderness, and that the manna, what did it really consist of? What was it really? And how he went on this journey to find out what it is. And so he goes to this one guru, and this guru says, "No, you must do that." And so eventually landed up in Peru on the mountains there with a shaman there that gave him some tea to drink, and then he went into this trance, and in this he went through to another dimension, and in this dimension he it's amazing. It's like it said, he was outside time. He was outside you and everybody's using. So that's interesting. But I know Jesus is not in that journey of his. That I know. But and how they went on this journey, and then there was this another friend of his that where they all decide, but they're going to start a retreat center, and where people can also then get to this journey, and then and get this breakthrough, because the people that went with him were people that were actually in addictions and so forth, but they all got this breakthrough and cried, and the one guy testified how he could how he saw his grandfather molesting him, and how he could go take his father together with his father, went to his grandfather and forgive his grandfather, and the breakthrough that he had. I mean, these are all the kind of things that we take people through for healing. And so for me, it was interesting to see these things. And they also actually, they spoke about holotropical breath work. They spoke about yogi. They spoke about the different breathing processes that's used in meditation and so forth. And this one guy said that he met the moon, and the moon. Now it sounds ridiculous from the side, but what he experienced and what he heard, it's interesting, because it's the kind of things that I hear that said in and the supernatural as well. But yeah, he just spoke to the moon, and the moon said to him that, you know what, you have to take out your heart. And then the moon washed his heart, and then he said, but the heart is still dark, and he doesn't want that. He wants the new heart, to receive the new heart. So you can even put the scripture into those processes that you see. And on the mountains, and it was so ridiculous for me because the emblems that he used was my tree, my mountain. No, man, the moon said to him, do these things. And the moon said to him, no, man, it's like my story. But but anyway, so for me, it was just interesting to see how the world is looking for the deeper experience, but they're walking without Christ. So they do get the experience, but they don't get Christ in the experience. And that for me is hurting. But also then on the other hand is that why do people then have to go there, and why don't I have the capacity or the ways and the means to help people to go to Christ in a way where they can just be broken, the slavery that they're in, just taken away, broke away from that, and so forth. And then again, where did I go wrong? Where did I miss out? So those are the things that the questions that I'm confronting myself with, that I'm sort of there where Arthur went on that black island kind of thing. I don't know where to get back to, but I see these worldly things happening and so forth, and I see how people are stolen and taken into that kingdom, into a different, through a different gate or whatever one wants to call it. And here I'm sitting on this side and I can't help people. Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
So I want to work on myself in the area then of getting this passion and first love back. And I see it in people around me. And so the thing is, on the one hand, either I go back to religion and say, this is the box, this is what a box looked like, and I just walk this box. Or I say, you know what, there's really more. And this is the journey. And I can help somebody on that journey.
Sure.
But I first need to help myself.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I think from listening to everything you've been saying and sharing, some of it comes down to, for me, is you're trying hard and striving to enter something that you've already got, but just haven't discovered it because you haven't been still enough to see it. So the things that came to me as I was listening was, you know, it would be good for you to take some time to be still. And don't try and do anything like fast or, you know, even try and read the Bible. Just be still with God and allow him to reveal himself to you in a new way and to reveal who you are in that. So, you know, be still, wait, rest. All these words are like, stop trying to do stuff to do it, because I don't think you're going to accomplish it through trying to engage it in the relational aspect of it. Yeah, we can build our spirit up in praying in tongues and all those things, but that is birthed out of desire and intimacy that will take us into deeper intimacy, rather than, well, I'm not feeling intimate, I need to try and get intimate, so I need to do something to be intimate. And then the more things you do, actually, the less intimate it gets, because it works. You know, it's a sort of DIY path to trying to find God, where actually you just have to be still. You know, be still and know that he's God. Wait on the Lord and let him renew your strength, and, you know, rest. All who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and find rest. You know, and I think that would be what I'm saying is you need to come to that place of rest, which means stop trying to do it and allow him to do it, as you rest in him. Now I think, well, how do you do that? You know, and I for me, I went through this process of going through the dark cloud of engaging, and my soul, you know, was what got dealt with in that process, because I couldn't rest. You know, I couldn't be still, and I couldn't wait. You know, and God had to deal with the sort of the core area of my identity, which I got from what I was doing. Essentially, you know, I was very active, engaging heaven and doing all those things, and none of them were wrong. They were all good. But deep down, that was giving me my sense of identity and my security and everything else. And as soon as God took it away, I couldn't cope, you know. And, you know, in the end, I just gave up. You know, after 6 weeks of just, my soul just could not be still, because I needed to know what God was doing. I needed to engage. I gave up. And then I just learned to rest, and without feeling guilty for not doing anything, without having to do anything. And at the end of the process, I found I know that God loves me, and it doesn't matter if I do anything or not. Now, that doesn't mean that we don't do anything, but it really means if we did, it wouldn't make any difference to my relationship with God and how I felt about myself and how I felt about him and how he felt about me. And that coming from a sort of strongly religious background, and I come from a very similar background. It wasn't Dutch Reform, but I came from Methodist into Brethren background. And that was just highly, highly religious and legalistic, and just did not reflect the God I now know at all. And I come from that background. So works and stuff was a major aspect to that. Legalistically, well, you can't do this and you can't do that, and this isn't right. I mean, you know, I wasn't quite as bad as my wife's family. They were like, you know, they couldn't watch TV on a Sunday. They couldn't go out and walk on the beach on a Sunday. They just couldn't do anything. It was just, you know, dead. You know, it was a deadness to it. And, you know, when I was engaging and talking to Jesus, one of the key things he said to me was, you know, this passage, and he expounded the passage from from Mark, about, you know, be still and know that I'm God. You know, that came out of, you know, all who are weary and heavy laden. I think it's Matthew 11. You know, come to me and find rest. You know, take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I'm gentle and humble in heart. You know, you'll find rest for your soul. So I went through, well, what is it to rest? Rest is not doing nothing, but it's being with him. So I spent time, you know, lying down in green pastures, and, you know, just you know, Psalm 23 became a real experience for me in that. It's just like, well, I'm going to lie down in green pastures by quiet waters with the shepherd, and I'm just going to rest. I'm not going to ask him anything. I'm not going to talk to him about anything. I'm not going to expect him to talk to me. I'm just going to rest there. And being with him actually unveiled so much, because I didn't have to do anything. Now, it was quite a hard initial process, but once I got to the rest stage, you know, being still was just like terrible. Waiting was terrible, until I got to the point where, okay, I give up. And then I actually rested. And my resting was just nothing. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear anything. I didn't do anything. But I just rested, and he renewed my strength, and he restored my soul. And I began to understand what it truly was to be gentle and humble in heart, which was to truly know myself in relationship to him, in my sort of sense of who I am as a son of God. I began to know that was nothing to do with if I did anything or not. It was not to do with activity. It was not to do with doing the right things. It was not to do with engaging heaven. It wasn't to do with anything. It was just being in relationship with him. So I learned to be and not to have to do. Now I'm a doer, you know, I like doing things. I mean, I'm very active in everything I do, you know, but God was basically saying, I made you this way, but you are using who I made you to give yourself your own identity. So I had to give up, you know, and I gave up, I surrendered, and I now know that it's nothing to do with activity or non-activity. It's nothing to do with anything. It's just purely, he loves me, I love him. And in that relationship, everything flows. And if I do nothing, it makes no difference to how I feel about myself or about how I feel about God. And it's completely remove the works mentality and the identity from what I do from me. So I don't have to do anything. But then because I don't have to do anything, I'm free to do everything, you know? And so I've never felt more free. I've never felt more loved. I've never felt more loving of life. Now that came purely out of him. You know, there was no exercise I could do to make that happen. I just had to stop trying and just be with him. And then the more I was with him, the more I began to realize who I was in relationship with him without having to do anything, without even saying anything to me. You know, he didn't even have to say anything. I just knew. You know, and when I hang out with him now, sometimes we have a conversation, sometimes I listen to him, but I can sit on his lap at times and I can feel the rhythm of his heart, and I can feel, hey, I'm in a totally secure place. I am loved. And I'm not here being loved because of all the good things I can do for God, or all my destiny and all the amazing things that I can do. I'm loved just because I'm his child, I'm his kid, you know, and he's my dad. And that's ultimately what he's looking for. And I would encourage you to look to just rest in that and allow him to reveal that to you. And it might be a challenge to your soul, but it will be ultimately bringing your soul to a place of rest, because your spirit's already there. It's just coming together in union of spirit and soul, because I was in tension. You know, my soul was doing things for the motive of identity, and my spirit was looking to bring my soul into this, hey, you don't need to do anything. So there was this flesh and spirit all the time, you know, and it wasn't so much of a sin issue of like, oh, I got all these terrible things. It was just an identity issue. And when I surrendered and I rested, then I discovered who I was, you know, and I discovered my identity was not linked to anything that I do or don't do. You know, and then, you know, the whole two things were gentleness, to learn from me because I am gentle and humble in heart. Well, gentleness is not weakness, meekness, a doormat. Gentleness actually is knowing the power and strength of who you are. And it's actually, the Greek word comes from what they had with a wild stallion. When the stallion became broken, if you like, and a bit was put in its mouth, then they said that was the word for gentleness. Now that stallion its strength and power is not for its own purpose anymore, but it's for the rider. And in our sense, this is for God, you know. And then humility is not, well, I'm nobody and nothing. It's totally the opposite. I accept totally who I am because of who God says I am. And I don't have to prove it, earn it, deserve it, do anything for it. I accept it. You know, all those wonderful, vast, some of the thoughts he has about me, Psalm 139, that became a reality. So I then could take a place in the heavens and be seated in the heavenly realms because I knew who I was, you know, and it wasn't giving me any more identity because I was sat in the position in heaven. because it didn't come from anything I'd done or deserved. It just came from who he made me to be. Once I accepted it and stopped trying to get it from what I was doing, then everything just became, I can live from rest. And now, sometimes I can be, like you get a hurricane and you get the eye of the storm, and in the middle of it, there's just total peace and calm, and the whole world is going around at 200 miles an hour, but I'm in a total place of rest, in peace and calm, because I'm in him. And I'm not have to sort all that stuff out or try and fix everything or try and make it right or try and put it right and do everything. I can just rest, and from that rest, authority comes. Because once I know who I am, then I recognize this is the position he's put me in, and I have authority here out of that rest to effectively outwork my sonship. But without my dad, then my sonship is coming from me trying to prove something to my dad so that he'll like me, or that he will give me stuff to do because now I've proved myself that I'm faithful and I'm this and I'm that. And he's not looking for any of it. So I'd encourage you to just look to be still and to wait with him and rest, and don't try and do anything, and go have a period where you can do that, where you sort of set your heart on just being with him. Whether you hear anything, see anything, it doesn't matter. You're bringing yourself to a place where you're willing to take his yoke on you, where his yoke is easy and his burden's light. And he will bring you into the place where there will be rest for your soul.
I think because it feels like my soul is really troubled, but
well, that's what Jesus said. Jesus said that, all who are weary and heavy laden, come to me and find rest. And then eventually he said, all those who are troubled, my peace I leave you, not as the world gives peace, but I leave you my peace. Then my joy can be in you and your joy can be full, because it all flows out of the relationship. It all flows out of, I am at a place of rest in him, and I'm ceasing the activity that's trying to create something for me, and I'm going to rest in who I am from him. And if I can't see him, I can't see myself, because I look at him and I behold, as in a mirror, who he made me to be. And I become like that which I behold. I don't become that which I do. I try and do to get something. I just have to behold him and spend the time gazing upon him. And whether that be, a thing you can see or engage, you don't even try and do anything. You just have to be in that and come to that place where I'm just going to rest. So I'm not going to try and do this or try and do that or try and do the next thing, or I'm trying to fast and I'm going to try this and I'm going to try the next thing, and I'm going to do all these things because I really want this. I want my passion restored. Your passion was never yours. It was something that came out of when you discovered God, and that passion was out of the relationship that you didn't know you had before. And if you go back to the relationship of being still in that relationship, then the passion will come out of that, the first love, a restoration of intimacy, of being in the presence of God, lying down in green pastures and just being still there. That was the, for me, that's what worked. And God had to put me into that place. Because I wasn't willing to do it myself. I didn't even know how to do it, but he took me into that because he knew there was so much more he wanted to bring me into and unveil that he couldn't if I was operating in the state that I was, And as soon as I actually surrendered, I realized that it was nothing about doing anything, And I seriously, if I never did another thing in anything that God, even wanted me to do, it would make no difference to how he felt about me or I felt about him, and how I felt about myself, because I was free not to do anything. or to do everything. And it would make absolutely no difference to my identity, because none of it was coming out of what I did. It was all flowing out of my relationship with him. He's my dad. You know, I'm his son. Everything flows out of that.
Yeah, I think why I struggle with this is because I'm not naturally. I'm not somebody that will walk into the place and start prophesying, or will open up scripture and just will break open, and I'll see the reason behind this or this or this or this. So I'm not in that teacher anointing or evangelist that I walk down the street and I just want to save everybody that walks past, you know, but where the Lord does use me as to sort of a combination of that, just to activate and as a catalyst in people's life to walk into their callings and so. So if somebody asks me, you know, Jacques, pray for me and see what the Lord says, you know, I'll pray for the person, but I wouldn't, not at all at this stage. So it's, for me, it's like all the charismatic ways that one was taught, sort of, I don't get that. And so now being in ministry, you know, being in ministry, I sort of should have that as an expectation. And then
you said you should have it.
It's like, because we also live in faith, so we've got people that support us. So sort of there must be some image that I must uphold. You know, that's always in the back of my mind. And how must I do this? Because I just screw up in those images so many times and lost friends or whatever, you know. And
it's the same thing, you see. If you are doing what you're doing to justify their support of you, then it's become a work and you're trapped.
It kills me, Mike. It kills me.
But see, you're not having to justify to them anything, God, because the only person that you're responsible for too, in reality, is God. And all he wants is a relationship. And everything will flow so that you will be able to do everything that God has destined for you to do out of that relationship, not for the relationship or not to, you know, please anybody else, you know. And, you know, I was in the same thing when I first began to work for the church, in the sense in 1994. I could not rest. I mean, I had my office in my house, which was not the ideal thing. And basically I was in there all the time, you know, every spare minute because I was trying to justify, well, I'm being paid. I need to be busy. I need to be active. I need to justify the fact that I'm doing all this stuff because people are paying me, and I need to, you know, and it was such a trap. And my wife one day said, well, you might as well put your bed in the office. You know, she said to me, you might as well put your bed in there because that's all you're focused on. And so I went, and that shocked me. And I went back to God with it. And it was like he began to show me the motives of my heart and why I was driven, because I was driven. That was the thing. I wasn't being led. I was being driven by the need to prove that I was a good steward of what I was doing, and I was justifying the fact that I was being paid and all that stuff. And the whole mindset was one that God had to deconstruct. And at that point, then I had to look at, well, why? You know, why am I looking for this? Why am I getting this? Why am I driven? You know, why can I not be at rest? And in the end, you know, that process challenged the root issues in my life at the level they could at the time. Now, obviously, it's been deeper levels since then. But at that point in time, God said to me, you don't have to justify yourself to anybody. And I was like, well, yeah, but I do, because I'm being paid, you know. And he says, well, okay, But if you want to do that, then you carry on. But actually, you don't need to justify yourself to anyone, because actually, I'm your provider. I might be using that source, but I'm your provider. And therefore, you do not have to earn my provision. My provision is in my relationship with you, because I blessed you and I've empowered you. Therefore, you don't need to try and empower yourself or get the blessing from somebody else. So it was a challenge. You know, I went through that. And I ended up not being driven, and I felt more relaxed, and I felt more at peace, you know, and I felt more at rest, you know, in that whole area. And I realized that, you know, the whole thing of full-time ministry and all that sort of stuff, there was a religious trap that I was trapped in around it, which brought me no peace, you know, and I was striving, you know, and being driven by the need to have to perform to show that I was worthy of what I was being paid. You know, that's how my mind. Now, it wasn't conscious. It wasn't like I was sitting there consciously doing it, but actually that was what was going on underneath and behind the scenes. You know, that I was driven to demonstrate the fact that I was worthy. You know, and when I realized it and I renounced it and I, you know, asked God to heal me in any areas of my heart at that point in time which were contributing to that. A lot of it was, you know, I didn't get any affirmation as a kid. You know, I didn't get affirmation from my dad. I didn't get affirmation in any way. Therefore, you know, to receive affirmation was something that made you feel good. You know, and in my teenage years, I was looking for affirmation in relationships with girls, because that is what made me feel good. When I was in a relationship, I felt good. And when I wasn't, because I didn't get any affirmation from the source I should have got it from. And so what God was saying to me, look, I'm your perfect dad. I affirm you, you know, and I don't affirm you because of what you're doing. I affirm you because of who you are. You're my son. And I approve of you because you're my son. Like, you know, when heaven opened and Jesus was there being baptized, and the heaven opened and the Father says, you know, this is my beloved son in whom I'm well pleased. He hadn't done anything. So it was nothing to do with what he was doing. It was, hey, here's my boy. I'm really, really pleased because he's my son. Not, well, he's going to do all these miracles and he's done all this stuff. And, hey, I'm really pleased and you're doing a good job. There was nothing about works in what he said. It was like, in whom I am well pleased, not in what you've done, I am well pleased, or I approve of what you're doing. In you, I approve of you. I affirm you. And that's what God wants to say to you. He wants you to allow him to give him the time to affirm you apart from activity and works, so that you really know your identity in who you are apart from doing anything at all. It is a challenge, because when our soul is driven, it's almost like you go through withdrawal. You know, I mean, this is what happened to me. You know, I went through, when I was put through the dark cloud, I went through withdrawal, and my soul just reacted really badly, because, you know, in my area of my soul that was being dealt with, I just could not be still. I had to know what God was doing. So I just could not control it. You know, my soul was just out of control, and God allowed it. Took his hand off me, took my spirit's, you know, hand off me, if you like, in my soul, and I just reacted. But it shocked me and showed me what was going on underneath, you know, and, you know, the rest and relationship that brings true identity and that true affirmation and true approval and affection and everything that comes out of a relationship with God needs to come from a place of rest and not from doing, you know.
So what you're saying, when you went through the cloud, just to recap on your last words, because like I said, it's like my flesh my soul is just overreacting at this stage. It's just,
Oh
I
yeah.
see this selfishness in me. I see this
Yeah.
hunger for affirmation. I see this fear of people. I
Mm.
get I get so scared of people in situations where I'm disrespected that I start actually shaking, and I don't know. I can't handle it.
Mm.
It's and then furthermore, I see these broken relationships that I've gone through the last few years, and through the and those were all people that I said I want a friendship with you. So then they start giving me finances, and that was the finances that we as a family survived on. And now suddenly the friendships are broken, and suddenly the finances are not there. And then I look at myself and say, I'm useless in a relationship. Um, I mean, I'm even too scared to do what I'm currently doing with you from a relationship point of view. I tell you, honest of truth, Mike, it's easier for me to sit there in England and I can switch you off. It's sort of, but at this stage, I'm so scared of even this relationship because I need to break this through, and I can't commit I'm scared to commit myself in a relationship, what we're currently walking in, what I'm sharing with you,
Mm.
because I need to perform to be a ministry so that people will support it. And what's happened now with the fires and everything that God has provided through other resources, just, wow, there's the monies. And for a year we sit here and we drawing out of those resources, but that's for me in my old mindset, that's capital. You don't use it for cash flow. And I'm useless in running a financial whatever institution in the way that I currently operate. But on the other hand, it's actually given me provision without me actually doing anything, and without without me being a good person and people see it
Yeah.
and help me. It just
Yeah.
did it.
But that's what he's trying to show you, that he is your provider because he loves you, and you
I wrote
don't
it
have
down.
to earn it. But when we've got this Protestant work ethic and we've got this religious stuff that we have to prove and perform, it's so hard. And the fact that this stuff is coming to the surface is because God has brought it to the surface to show you that this is the root of what's driving you. So he can show you that he's not like that, that he is not wanting you to perform or earn something, that you don't have to do anything for him to love you. He will provide for you regardless, because he loves you, and his provision is there not because you've earned it, but because he wants to bless you. He wants to bless you and empower you to prosper and to succeed in your life, and you just have to let him and get out of the way. And that's that. For me, it was like, oh, what do you mean I can't? No, stop, be still and wait and rest. And literally my soul was totally out of control. The first 6 weeks of that process, my soul completely was out of control in my relationship. Not out of control in sin stuff, just totally out of control in my relationship with him. I could not rest. I had to, everything, every question I had to ask him. I wanted to know the answer, and I got nothing. And my soul just kept on and on and on and on and on. And I could not be still. And it's before he told me to be still, I had no problem being still. I would say I was living from a place of rest and stillness and joy, but the deep down and the root that was underneath got exposed and brought to the surface, and my soul's need was identified. And then when I surrendered it, and I did not need to know, and this was my issue, the knowing I needed to know, because that's how I'm wired. But when I didn't need to know, I was at total peace. And it was like, hey, if I never know another thing, who cares? That's how it felt. I felt so liberated and so free from performance and having to do anything, that I was floating on air. It was like the light, my spirit was just light. My soul was light. All the burden and the yoke that I was carrying my own responsibility to earn everything. And I was burdened and weighed down by this yoke of being yoked to religion, not relationship. And once I was yoked to him in relationship, there was no burden, there was no weight. I've never felt as much liberty and lightness ever in my life. And my soul and spirit got just completely restored and reintegrated together. And then I was free to be able to do nothing or everything. But it doesn't affect anything. You know, if I took a week and did nothing, it would make no difference to how I felt about myself or how I felt about God or how God felt about me. Now that brought me freedom, you know, and the motives of my heart were dealt with. But I had to be still. You know, I had to stop, you know. And some of it is, yes, you identify, you know, and when I did identify it, you know, I effectively gave up everything. I laid everything on the altar. It was like I burnt my agreement with God, all the dreams, the visions, everything. I just offered it up, and it was like, and I grieved over it, and I emotionally grieved, and it was just like, it's gone. It's all dead, you know, and it has no hold over me anymore. I'm not driven to fulfill my destiny, or I just want relationship. You know, I don't have to do anything for that relationship. You know, so everything flows from that rather than trying to get it, you know. So it's not easy because your soul's in that point of turmoil. Mine was, you know, I was in this point of turmoil where everything came, but then it was like, okay, I surrender. And that was it. I just made the choice. I surrender. And then God took me through that in terms of everything I just let go of, you know. And I came out the other end and God restored everything, you know, from one day to the next. It was just like everything got restored. But now I was different. You know, I was free. You know, I was truly yoked to Jesus and not yoked carrying my own weight of responsibility of having to be me and try and be me. Now I just was me in relationship with him, and that was enough. You know, so.
Man, that's not easy what you're telling me.
No,
because even coming from I'm the kind of person as a child, if I had a friendship, I will never give up on the friendship. And they would have left me long ago, and I will still pursue the friendship. So I got a lot of rejection of things of rejection. And actually, I spoke to my mum last week. What is our time, Mike? Are you still on time?
It's 2:05, so I've got to go soon, but I'm okay.
Okay. Yeah, so let me finish with this. So I can see this line of rejection, and my mother's mother visited me this weekend, and it's amazing. She just said that my father had this rejection issue to such an extent she actually asked him to marry her, and I never knew that. But my father was an orphan, and so I want to go into that because my biggest revelation was to be a son of God. My biggest affirmation is every time when there was prophesied exactly the words that you used, this is my son in whom I'm well pleased. I walk strong on my sonship, but then to try and reestablish friendship relationships, like with Jesus and so forth, with my brother. That's the areas that I struggle with, because that's where I got hurt in ministry.
Yeah.
There's people that I took in, I discipled them, and then he said, okay, let's go over into friendships. And then it became, but they financially support me, and then they started putting performance levels there, and I just couldn't achieve it, and
and
so
then
that's
God,
where my current
God doesn't want you to achieve it because he doesn't have performance levels for you to achieve. He just
Yeah,
wants
but from
relationship. And
my
those
side, as
relationships aren't true. You know, any relationship which is conditional isn't a true relationship. And anyone who puts performance things or conditions on giving you something is not doing it out of a relationship. They're doing it out of control. Right?
yeah, but Mike, it's that thing again of now they stop giving, the relationship is not yet, and then they come back and say, but God said that we should stop giving, stop tithing to you, those kind of words. And well, that's the words that were spoken. So then I sit on this side, but if God tells them to stop providing for me, it's actually God stopped providing for me.
Yeah.
Not them, because I saw them as a provision. And I said from the beginning, you know what, we're in a friendship. If you want to sow into my life, because they started sowing, say, we just want to clear that out. I'm never going to say thank you to you. I'm never going to remind you of that. I don't want to be reminded of that. If you want to stop, you stop. But then coming back, but God said that we must stop. And so suddenly the relationship is on that term. Because when I started Beulah as well, the guy that started it with me, he was supposed to make a contribution, and then we signed the contracts, everything. We moved. I closed my business. Hanneke resigned and everything, and we were already on Beulah. And then he said, "Yeah, God said that he shouldn't make his contribution anymore."
Yeah, but God didn't say that. That's a lie. You know, He didn't want to for whatever reason. Anyone who says God told me to do they're saying that because they're dressing it up with God said, and actually they said. And if they just come out and said, well, actually, I don't feel I want to do that, fair enough. But when they attach God onto it, then it puts on a condemnation and a guilt, because God must be saying that because I can't be doing well enough. Because that's what it gets tied to. I can't be doing well enough, so God is withdrawing it because he's not pleased with me. He's always pleased with you. He's always smiling over you. You know, he always desires. You've got to rest in his provision, not try and earn it or perform for it. And that's not easy when we're driven, you know, and when, you know, the whole
when we
community.
Because I'm the provider for the family as well, you know. The whole thing as a father must provide for his family. At this stage, I'm not providing for my family at all. My daughters are all studying on loans. And
Okay.
Mike, thank you for your time. I've got a lot to think about. Thank you that I could share my heart and in that. But bless you, and bless you with the family, and also with Deborah, also with her mother and the funeral. So blessings with you.
Okay, thank you.
Shall we set another date now, or would you like to come back?
Basically every 4 weeks. So every 4 weeks. So the next one, if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it.
Calendars there.
Yeah, I've got I think I gave you the link to the calendar, which is a live calendar, which I just update. So the next time will be the 8th of January. Wednesday the 10th of January.
Is that a calendar on Zoom?
It's a calendar that it's on our website. So I just gave a link. I'll send you another link if you want. It's just I update a live calendar with my Google Calendar that you can see when all the meetings are. So that one, next one's the 10th, Wednesday the 10th, same time.
Excellent. But thank you very much. Then I'll speak to you next year.
Well, have a good holiday time and family time and a good new year, and I'll catch up with you then. But rest. That's the rest.
The same with you. And may you have good rest at this time as well.
I will.
Okay.